Hey YouTube, long time no see. I can definitely feel the beginning of the end of the outdoor video recording. It's a little bit cold out today. I'm not there yet, but I just sort of lamenting the loss because I've been enjoying actually being able to come outside and make videos outside, but oh well, that'll probably be it until spring. I had last week off and didn't really have time to make any videos or do much more than sort of catalog a whole bunch of video concepts, a whole bunch of ideas for videos. So hopefully if I've been diligent and made notes as I should have, I'll have some topics for the future. I'm going to leave the secular morality topic for a little bit. I've sort of been watching things transpire on the comments section of the couple of videos I have uploaded, and I'm doing some research myself right now. So once I've sort of concluded that particular stage of research, then I'll do another video and we'll sort of take it from there. As I mentioned last week, I had off, and I had a birthday, and turned 46 for the record. And on my birthday, I had a visit from some Jehovah's Witnesses. And this actually kind of takes me back. I've mentioned in previous videos that I wasn't really exposed to religion much as a child, really at all. My parents just didn't expose us to it, and we were living in a fairly remote area, so I actually wasn't even exposed to a lot of other people. The extent of the exposure I did have to religion actually tended to come in the form of Jehovah's Witnesses coming to the door. And the first ones that would come, because of where we lived and everybody was sort of almost subsistence living, when the Jehovah's Witness would come to the door, he actually would sort of drop off the magazines, and then he and my dad would just bullshit about sawmills, beekeeping, pressing apples for apple juice, just, every other thing under the sun. No religious talk at all. And me as a little rugrat with no shoes on would just be sort of there. And I sort of, caught the conversation, but there was no real religion being discussed. And in a way, I think my dad enjoyed, having the guy come over. Over the years, that guy got elderly and stopped coming around, and there were the more typical Jehovah's Witnesses coming. Ladies dressed very, very nicely, while, a whole bunch of them would sit in the car, and one would come with the magazines and ask one of those leading questions, isn't the world in a terrible state, with a picture of a mushroom cloud, on the cover of the Watchtower or Awake magazine that she was bringing up. And that was probably my first real exposure to religion, was actually hearing those discussions take place. Because my parents were raised Roman Catholic and even, went to Catholic schools and everything, they were pretty well versed and understood a lot of things. My dad is a very intelligent guy, probably the most intelligent person I know. And so he would kind of pretty easily make mincemeat of them, and he always had some new thoughtful way to deal with them every time they would come, and I think most of them left frustrated. The lady that came to see me the other day was interesting because I usually don't have a lot of time for them. For whatever odd reason, sometimes they'll come while I'm trying to work, and obviously that's not cool. And I'll just tell them, listen, I'm trying to work here, you got to go. Because it was my birthday and my wife had answered the door, and that woman had asked her a few questions, and my wife sort of just leaned back from the door. She's like, do you want to take this, and I thought, oh, what the hell, it's my birthday. It's time to have some fun. So I went, and I had just seen a news article on this, I think it's a Professor Atwill in the UK, who's got a thesis that that there's actually almost a written confession to the whole fabrication of the Jesus story. And so that was my first question to her. Well, didn't you know, the whole Jesus story was all made up. Anyway, we got into a conversation. It's kind of unfortunate in a way because I have to be mindful of my business. I've got the name of my shop right at the end of the driveway, and it's a small community that I live in. And I don't really want to hurt anyone's feelings anyway, but I've got to be mindful of that. So I can't quite take it to the level I might like to. At least for the purposes of argumentation, holding her to logical premises. And it was interesting to watch as we discussed the cognitive dissonance build and build and build with this poor woman, because she would ask, these same leading questions, and I would say something on the order of, well, I have an issue. I have a difficulty accepting a concept of the all-powerful, all-knowing creator of the universe, yet his most eloquent solution was like to kill everything, like just to flood everything. That's his most eloquent solution. I said, I can think of thousands upon thousands of lowly human beings that could come up with a more creative solution than that. Surely the supreme being could. And her answer to that was, well, you know why there's rainbows, don't you? And I said, well, yeah, I understand the narrative. I understand that this is supposed to be, representative of promise or a covenant to never flood the earth again or whatever. But I said to her, I said, well, we do know what causes rainbows, right? It's light refraction through water droplets. But I said, more importantly than that, why are there places on earth that don't get rainbows? And why, for instance, on the hillside that I happen to live on, am I so blessed with so many? I get lots of double rainbows. We get more rainbows here in the year we've been here than I've probably seen my entire life. Why is that? And she, of course, she stumbled and started, thumbing through the Bible. And that was the other thing I noticed. She really was ill-prepared to talk about anything without starting to refer to the Bible. So she started reading me the entire Genesis account, because I said something to her on the order of, she said something about, you do have to have faith to believe. And I said, well, that's the issue. I said, because there are so many different religions and so many different sects that don't agree with one another. So if each person from each religion and each sect came to my door, and I was forced to accept what you're selling and what they're peddling on faith, I would be in the unfortunate position of having to accept them all on faith if I'm going to be consistent. And obviously that can't happen. And I said, and I just have a hard time believing in a all-powerful, all-knowing creator of the universe punishing me to an eternity of torment in hell for that. And she said, oh, well, there's no literal hell. There's no hellfire. And I said, oh, great. That's awesome. What good news. I said, well, what does happen to an unbeliever then? And she started reading through the Bible. And I said, I know the narrative. Like, you don't need to tell me that. Just tell me face to face. And she said, well, God didn't create man to kill man. And I said, well, does he or is he not omniscient? Would he or would he have not known when he created man what the outcome was going to be and what he would be forced to do? And again, she started reading me from Genesis and word for word, and then I thought she was going to finish the paragraph and over the page. What I found interesting with her, though, was there was actually a lot more honesty than I see with popular YouTube theists and apologists. A lot more honesty. In fact, the dishonesty that she displayed was within herself, right? She would say a lot of things that would play really well to their group, but don't play real well outside their group, their cozy little group. So, for instance, she said things like, "Do you know that the Bible is the one book that people tend to keep no matter what? When you have a book you don't use, you tend to throw it away or give it away to somebody. But the Bible is one that everybody always hangs on to." Ooh. As if that means anything, right? I mean, it can be, all kinds of reasons, deep-seated guilt or foreboding that maybe there's something going on there or whatever, or that people actually believe or whatever. But it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't speak to the Bible's validity, which is what she was getting at. But not only that, it's totally disregarding like people who purposely make piles of Bibles and burn them, right, on purpose, so, and I said that to her. I said, well, people burn Bibles, like that doesn't mean anything, or she said another thing that she said that's completely, and I said to her, I said, well, I sort of tend to deal more in empirical facts, so, I would need to see some evidence of that. She said, this Bible they have, the new Jehovah's Witnesses Bible, is a Bible that could not have been created without assistance from the hand of God. It would have been impossible for it to be made. Well, I said, well, then it should be very easy for you to demonstrate how he helped, what his impact was, what his influence was, right? And she just, like I said, you could see the cognitive dissonance building up. So the dishonesty with her was quite internal. I think she was being honest with me. Her intent was to be honest with me, but she wasn't being honest with herself. And I could see her getting more and more flustered as time went on, and I found myself apologizing. I found myself saying, listen, I don't mean to be confrontational with you. I'm not interested in challenging your beliefs. But you came to me, you came to my door, and I'm just explaining to you why I don't believe. And she ended up leaving, and I said, have a nice day and happy Easter and all that good stuff. And I sort of feel like I kind of beat her up a little bit, even though I wasn't mean in the slightest. I was very, very pleasant and polite with her. I just kept trying to hold her to logical reasoning, and that doesn't work really well when you're dealing in fantasy land. So I just wanted to share that. I think that probably the average Christian and Jehovah's Witness, etc., are quite a bit more honest than their apologist counterparts and their YouTube counterparts. And I think, you know, that's probably for obvious reasons, because those apologist counterparts are the ones who are having to convince everyone. They're the ones doing the deceiving to get people to follow. And once people follow, and they probably don't do as much diligent work as they should to assure that the doctrine they're following, you know, has some basis in rationality, then they kind of, you know, they kind of believe things for bad reason, but they're being honest, they're just being internally dishonest. So just something I thought I would share. I'm going to get back to work. Thanks very much for watching.